At Module 1, Lesson 3, Numbers in Exponential Form Raised to a Power. Some things that we would like for you to understand by the end of this lesson is how to take powers of powers, and to know that when a product is raised to a power, that each factor of that product is also raised to that power. I know that sounds like a little bit of gibberish right now, but we'll get into it and figure everything out. So here we go. Alright, so at the top of page 11 you'll see this rule here for any number x and any positive integers m and n. X to the m power raised to another power n equals x to the n times m power. Now this is just the rule that I want you to pay attention to, but here very shortly we're going to put this into action and you can see exactly what we mean by using some numbers. Looking at exercise 1, we have 15 raised to the third power in parentheses, and then that is raised to the ninth power. So one thing that you're really going to have to be comfortable with is the use of your parentheses. So if we write this all the way out, it's going to be 15 times 15 times 15. That is what 15 to the third actually means. But if we keep that in parentheses, we're actually going to raise that to the ninth power. So another way that you can write this, and it's actually going to save you quite a bit of time, is to just multiply the two exponents. So you have 15 to the 9 times 3 power. Or you can also solve that and say 15 to the 27th. Any one of those will work. We would prefer this one or this one. Exercise 2, it's exactly like exercise 1 except for the fact that we have a negative in with the base. So if we take a look at it, we have negative 2 as our base, so we're just going to carry that over, negative 2. And then we have negative 2 raised to the fifth power, so it's exactly like I had up here in exercise 1. So negative 2 to the fifth power, then that whole ordeal with the parentheses raised to the eighth power. So another way we can write this is negative 2 to the 8 times 5 power, or we can go ahead and solve that 8 times 5 and have negative 2 to the 40th power. Now I want you to take a look at exercises 3 and 4, and why don't you take a look at those and work those out on your own. If you have any questions, make sure that you write those down. We can ask them in class. Miss James and I would be more than happy to answer those for you. Alright, I hope those two problems weren't too rough for you. Again, if you have any questions on exercises 3 and 4 that you just did on your own, please be sure and ask us tomorrow in class. Exercise 5, still on page 11 in our binders. We're going to take a look at that. The question asks, Sarah wrote 3 to the 5th power, all raised to the 7th power, equals 3 to the 12th. We need to correct her mistake. So let's just stop right there and go ahead and correct her mistake, because this is actually our first question right here. That's question number 1. So Sarah wrote out 3 to the 5th, all multiplied or raised to the 7th power equals 3 to the 12th. Well, we know that whenever you multiply or you have the parentheses around these powers, that it needs to be corrected to the point of 3 to the 7th times 5, or 3 to the 35th power. So there was her mistake. If you look at it, 5 and 7, she actually just added those two together. So now what we need to do is solve our second part of the question. Write an exponential equation using a base of 3 and exponents of 5, 7, and 12 that would make her answer correct. So in order to do that, we would have to show that 3 to the 5 plus 7 power is actually 3 to the 12th power. Now, why did she actually do that? And I think what her misconception was is that she just broke it down differently. She thought that it meant 3 to the 5th times 3 to the 7th, and that's not actually what we're doing at all, because whenever we multiply the two bases together like this, then we can add them together, 3 to the 5 plus 7. But what we're doing is actually raising 3 to the 5th and then raising that again to the 7th. So there was her misconception. Now moving on to the top of page 12, this is our second rule that we're going to have for our exponents. For any numbers x and y and positive integer n, x times y in parentheses is raised to the n power. That equals x to the n times y to the n. And again, we're going to take a look at that just a little bit closer so you can see with numbers exactly what this means. Now still on page 12 of your binder, we're going to take a look at exercise 7. 11 times 4, the quantity of 11 times 4, all raised to the 9th power. So what's another way that we can write that? Well, based on the rule that we just looked at the top of the page, we can write this as 11 to the 9th power times 4 to the 9th power. Simple as that. Now exercise 8 might get a little tricky, but I want you to follow along with me as best you can. We're going to rewrite this in a different way so it looks a little bit more like what we're used to seeing. So we're going to start out by separating our two bases and exponents inside the parentheses. So we have 3 to the 2nd power and we have 7 to the 4th power. Now those are obviously multiplied together, but the way that we are used to seeing them is each of them in parentheses. Now I still have this exponent of 5 over here, so I'm just going to carry that over to both of them. So I have to the 5th power to the 5th power, and we are multiplying them together. So there's another way to write that, but we can still take this and break it down just a little bit more. So we're going to take this and we're going to have 3 to the 5 times 2 power times 7 to the 5 times 4. Now if you would like to stop here, you can. We'll accept that as an answer. Or if you want to continue and solve the multiplication, you can. The answer to that would be 3 to the 10th times 7 to the 20th. Exercise 9, we get one of those pesky little variables in there, but no need to worry. A variable is just a letter that holds the place of any number. So if we know that, then this really isn't too bad. We can still separate this out again, just like what we did with exercise 8. We have 3 to the 2nd power, and we also have a to the 4th power. Now again, those are multiplied together because there is no addition, subtraction, division sign in between there. It's just an understood multiplication. So we need to keep these in our parentheses so we know what we're doing with them, and then we carry this 5 along to both of them. So we end up with 3 squared, all raised to the 5th power, and a to the 4th power, all raised to the 5th power. And again, because there is no space in between here, it is an understood multiplication, and again we can break this down a little bit more. 3 to the 10th power times a to the 20th power, and we are solved. Why don't you guys try exercise 10, 11, and 12 on your own. If you have any questions, be sure and write them down. Ms. James and I will help you tomorrow during class. So now that we're at the end of lesson 3, just wanted to take a look back at our student outcomes, what we wanted you to be able to achieve after this lesson. Hopefully you know how to take powers of powers, and that when a product is raised to a power, then each one of those products is also raised to that power. So instead of using addition and subtraction like we have in the past, now we are using multiplication all the way through. So again, if you have any questions, please be sure and write those down. Hope you guys have a good night. We'll see you in class tomorrow.